Welcome everyone to the day 4 of Cyber Yuva campaign launched by Cyber Jagriti. Today we are going to discuss about cyber ethics for parents. And the guest speaker for this topic is Mr. Ashrit Ashutosh Acharya. He is an associate at Law Sikho, advocate at Odisha High Court, and has been doing a lot of work in the field of cyber crimes and cyber laws. So he is an expert who has been training a lot of schools and colleges students on ethics and on cyber crimes and on cyber related topics. So with utmost pleasure, I invite Ashriji to please take over the session. Over to you, Ashriji.
Thank you for such a lovely introduction, Rupesh. It's truly an honor that I was, asked for this. I really, uh, I hope that I do justice and I can teach you, or I can at least inform you on certain very important aspects that we're going to discuss tonight. And first of all, thanks to Cyber Jagriti for conducting this Cyber Yuva and giving me this platform to make sure that very relevant information reaches all of your ears, whoever is watching and listening. uh, Again, I've been introduced already, so I will not take a lot of your time, but today I'll be talking about something very important, very critical, and very contemporary for all of you, and it's specifically about cyber ethics for parents, and will obviously somewhat deal with a little bit of children cyber laws as well. So let's start with the fact that it's very contemporary, it's very relevant these days, because cyber laws are something which are developing and taking over the world. In fact, recently I was talking to my father, who has retired, and he is pretty old, so we were talking about, and we were discussing how the cyber realm is growing, how the scope of cyber realm is increasing. It's engulfing everything on its way, and it's developing as fast as possible. And we were thinking about how does it affect children, because a lot of you who are watching this are either of my age group or slightly older or relatively younger, but all of you remember the time when we were first introduced to this modern technology called phone. So personally speaking, back in my day, like when I was a child, phones, or even the gigantic personal computers we had, there was no slick laptops back then. uh, Phones were something that were very new to everyone, and most of our parents got it, but it was the qwerty pad era. It wasn't smartphone era, and slowly that developed. But even from that very age, all of you must agree with me, all of you synonymously agree with me for the fact that the children were the one who were usually catching up with the technology pretty fast, right? Like we were, like, my generation caught up to the technology pretty fast compared to my parents. And we were holding smartphones were during what when we were like 17, 16, 17. And now the rate technology is accelerating. A lot of younger kids now, like kids of 10, 11, they're holding smartphones. And right now as we speak, children of ripe age of 4 and 5, they're the ones holding smartphones, and they're the one accessing a lot of things. So as parents, as elders of the society, we always think that we have to protect children from the world, right? We have to protect them, we have to shelter them, we have to prepare them for the world. But what happens when the world is in your palm? What happens when you say, let's say, the world is within this small box, the whole globe is in there. I can push a few buttons and I have access to everything that I need to see. Now that is a scary thought, and that should make us very vigilant, so that we can not only deal with the challenges that are accompanying technology, but also how to protect the young. So of course, cyber ethics plays a very critical part in it. Cyber ethics plays a very crucial part in it, and it is very important for both the parents and and the children to understand why it's important and why we need to master it, or let's say regulate it at the very least. Master seems a bit far fetched. So I would like to introduce you to the topic. Let's have a casual discussion here, and I want to keep it as informal as possible, so that it doesn't seem like a boring lecture to you guys. So first thing first, we have to discuss, of course, what cyber ethics means. Now, the traditional meaning of cyber ethics is basically a moral rules, or it's a set of moral rules or a code of behavior which applies to an online environment. So, as a responsible citizen who surfs through the internet, we are supposed to observe the rules, and we are supposed to observe it so that the cyberspace, which is the internet, it is a safe space. Now, unfortunately for all of us, most of the most of the people have pretty low standards when it comes to ethics. And because most people believe there is no law which governs the virtual realm, right? There is no law which governs their behavior online. And they think their anonymity, they think them staying secretive is going to protect them. But in fact, these are all misconceptions. But as parents, your first and foremost protection is towards the children. You have to protect the family. You have to protect your children. So, what are some of the general risks that a child faces when he enters this realm of technology? A realm which gives him access to the global information within a few buttons, the whole world in his fingertips. So, when a child enters into this realm of internet, he is exposed to various sorts of activities which a child might not understand the consequences of. So, for example, it could be related to the general risks a child face, could be related to crime, it could be a criminal act. Uh, Children are mostly very negligent of cyber ethics, and it is very easy for them to, do something that might not be very legal or even moral or ethical. And it's not difficult to track these activities over the internet. And children are one of the most easy to manipulate and very vulnerable group. And their belief in anonymity is something that makes them take risks. So for starters, crime and punishment is a risk that a child faces. This leads me to another risk that a child usually faces is relating to downloading. Back in when we were children, people would download songs, people would download videos, the movies downloading was rampant. And even with the modern era of ott streamings, where we have Netflix, Amazon Hotstar, HBO Max, and all of those, we still a lot of people are still depending on downloading, especially children, because they are not necessarily getting the access from their parents, or the necessary funding from the parents to get access to a lot of ott platforming. So it's simple, they just download the content. And now you would ask me, what's the problem in downloading? We download it all the time, right? The fact that current era of downloading is pretty critical, because current era of downloading is governed by the intellectual property rights. According to this article by a very well-known data analyst, Melanie G. Snyder, and her article is titled "Cyber Ethics and Internet Downloads: An Age-by-Age Guide to Teaching Children What They Need to Know." That specifically talks about what the risks are associated with when you're downloading something which is related to copyright work. Now, in the last couple of years, let's say in the last 5 years, 94% youth are responding to an online cyber ethics poll, and they didn't think that there would be any negative consequences of illegally copying copyrighted materials. Right? So, download a movie, download a song. There are no consequences. That's what the children these days think. According to this poll, most kids believe that there is no risk in downloading anything which does not belong to them. The mentality behind this is pretty simple. It's the very commonplace mentality that all of us face with, and which is that everyone is doing it. So are they going to punish us all? No, right? So it's okay. When everyone does a particular illegal act, then suddenly it's a trend now. It's the norm. It's okay. Therefore, it is very important, and it's very age appropriate lesson that could be taught by cyber ethics. And this could help children understand the risks that are associated with, and not just the risks that they are facing because of downloading, but the basic moral and ethical rights that they have to respect, which comes to an artist who puts up this work. So, what can we do to mitigate these particular scenarios? I've given you a couple of examples of the risks that a child faces while dealing with certain, you know, certain aspects of internet streaming, like downloading and criminal activities. But how do we mitigate these things? How do we make sure that the children understand the consequences of their actions? How do we ensure the fact that a child understands the ramifications that can be caused simply by clicking the wrong button? It's very simple. We are fighting here with an idea, right? And ideas cannot be hurt, ideas cannot be, put in jail. So what we can do is educate them, show them a better idea. So for starters, mitigation has to begin with education. So primary schools or elementary schools, they're very black and white when it comes to ethical thinking. Because in elementary school we were told there is a wrong and there is a right, there's a black, there is a white, there is no gray area. So we need to understand that this is something we can implement in the children from the very beginning. Until the age of 11 to 12, a child can be, made to read or study about something called copywriting. He could be explained in a very simple term what does copywriting means. The child has to understand how to identify this copyright symbol, or at least a child should be told that it is against the law and it is wrong to break the law. Now similarly, a middle schooler, or class above the age of 12, around class 8 9 7 to 8, or 7 to 10 at least, they can take a little more, challenging concepts, they can understand those concepts. And this is also a pretty tough group to crack, because these are the kids who are, getting introduced to these realms of the internet, and they are pretty carefree. So we have to make them understand, like, the economy behind, and the finances and the hard work that goes behind making films, music, softwares, or games, and how much of a hit it takes economically and how much damage it causes financially to an artist when his or her work is just copied and spread across the internet. They need to understand the real scenarios, they need to understand the consequences that happen to real people, because it's very common that if a person can visualize the victim, if a person can understand the consequences that a victim has to face because of their actions, they will probably think before, doing anything stupid. And finally, they have to be taught how to review policies. All the internet websites, they have to have policies, and it's basically our job as elders, as teachers, as parents, to ensure that the child understands that there are policies that have to be respected, and there is an internet conduct contracts that we are signing with the websites, that those are to be respected, and hence whatever a child does, it has to align with that. Now coming to high schoolers, obviously a little older, just before college. So you need to make sure that they understand internet risk, and not just the risk they're posing to the society, but the very basic risks as well, like downloading or torrenting leads to a lot of viruses and spywares. And apart from that, stealing copyrighted work, stealing IPR in general is a crime, and therefore there are legal consequences. It could cause a lot of problems. It could cause a lot of difficulties in the career ahead if you already are facing criminal charges. You need to also ensure that these children understand the pros and cons of their own actions. We can also obviously try to set the right example, and we can ensure that they are subscribing legally to a website rather than just stealing them, right? So another article by Bob Kruger, which is rightly apt tech learning, it addresses the cyber ethical issues of downloading, and it shows teacher's easy way to talk to their students about cyber ethics. I would recommend all of you to check that out if sometime you can. It speaks about a lot of easy ways a teacher can explain the concept of cyber ethics to the children. Another thing that we have to talk about is cyberbullying. Cyberbullying is something which is rampant. Cyberbullying is very common. It is spread across the country like wildfire ever since the advent of the internet. But these days, children are reacting very badly to cyberbullying. They always have been, to be fair. Cyberbullying is the online form of bullying which makes the child, react in the manner which is not very suitable, and often this leads to them taking actions which are not very smart to begin with. So you have to ensure that when a child is encountering cyberbullying, that the child should definitely tell about it to a trusted adult, and maybe the adult can help the child take an action, or you can simply ignore the cyberbullies; they will go away, or you can keep the messages from the bullies, and actually, it can help you take actions. But there are also a lot of softwares that will block such messages, that uses artificial intelligence to read specific words and read specific phrases that can help singling out such messages and block them. So, because cyber ethics is something that everyone needs to know about, and these days specifically children. And cyber ethics is critical in the sense that a child would understand the consequences of actions such as cyberbullying as well. So now that we understand the risks that are followed by the existence of a child getting access to the internet, we understand why we need to step in and understand the basic concepts of cyber ethics. But why do our children need cyber ethics, right? Why would a child need to understand such a humongous concept? See, it is very relevant that kids understand the role from a very early stage, because these kids are going to lead to the betterment of the society. And it has always been traditionally for thousands of years, ever since the advent of civilization. It is the responsibility of the parents to inculcate such ethics into their kids. We were taught honesty, we were taught trust, we were taught to be optimistic. These are some of the ethics that were taught to us by our parents. But now, with the rise of technology, the advent of this global world, we have to evolve our ethics as well. So our ethics cannot just stay to being honest or being truthful or being just. It has to evolve into something that can applied all across the globe. And a child will always have access to all across the globe by the internet. So it's our duty as parents, as elders, to inculcate certain ethics into the kids, and in a very subtle manner. There are actually a lot of issues, a myriad of issues that have resurfaced over the last few years. So we need to understand how to deal with these problems, and we need to understand how to make our children tackle these issues more effectively in case they pop back up. First of all, kids need to learn that whatever they post online, it's never going to go down because of the prevalence of screenshots or instant sharing. Something that goes on the internet more likely will be caught by someone else, and it will continue to stay for a while, forever maybe. So if your child posts something very inappropriate over the internet, it's very difficult to get rid of it. It's very difficult to delete it entirely, because somewhere someone will have those screenshots, or some will have access to those that data, that particular incident that occurred. So it's very important to teach children from the very beginning the consequences and the ramifications of not acting smartly on the internet. For that, I think the best way would be to understand what cyber law deals with. Because if we as parents we understand what cyber law deals with, we can obviously help out our children dealing with specific issues. We can obviously help out our children not act in the manner that they do without guidance. But for that, parents need to understand what cyber law is. So cyber law is dealing with a lot of various sorts of laws. It encompasses a lot of laws. Its scope is pretty wide, but mostly it deals with cyber crimes. That means crime across the internet. It deals with electronic and digital signatures. Every device, every person has their own digital signatures, their own electronic signatures. It also deals with intellectual property and data protection and privacy. Intellectual property, as you know, your ideas, your thoughts, your creations, those are all your intellectual property. And data protection, whatever data you have, uh, you use on the internet, whatever things you search for, whatever things you want to look for, all of these are recorded, and these are used for various purposes like advertisement, or any other purpose that a big company might deem fit. But data protection and privacy is something which is also messed around with, so that and because of that, is cyber law makes complete sure that your data is protected, so that your data is not used against you. So we're dealing in India first. So let's talk a little bit about what cyber laws are there in India and how do we deal with cyber crimes. So in the 21st century Indian legal system, there are a few acts which deal with cyber law, and the first one is obviously our Information Technology Act 2000, or the IT Act 2000. We are the third biggest internet user after the United States and China, and we are clocking around an annual growth of like 44%. And in a few years, we're going to blow past China as well. And hence, the laws against cybercrime in India have been laid down in the IT Act. It's very relevant. It's very important that this IT Act is not only implemented but followed throughout. So the IT Act covers a lot of cyber crimes that I'm going to tell you about, uh, and then you'll be also aware of the risks that are there on the internet and that a child might be a target for. So first thing first, the IT Act deals with hacking and data theft under Section 439 Clause H and 66 of the IT Act. So hacking and data theft is pretty standard thing that you all of you, if not gone through it, at least have heard of it. Data theft is simple. Someone steals your password, someone steals your credit card details, someone steals your search history. And hacking deals with the fact that someone hacks basically your account, and someone hacks any sort of online portal that you're operating, any sorts of account you have on any online website, and then uses your data against you. Another crime that the IT Act deals with is the tampering with computer source document. The computer has a particular source document, and if someone uses the internet to tamper with that, that's also a crime. Then receipt of stolen property, that is dealt under 66B, section 66B of the IT Act. Then there is identity theft and cheating by personation. Identity theft is a very serious crime, and millions of families suffer every year. Identity theft is basically someone steals your identity and maybe does something that you wouldn't do in your prudent mindset. And cheating by personation, someone can pretend to be me and steal your data, or steal money from you. Someone could impersonate you and then come over to me and ask, I'm from maybe this particular organization, please sign up. This is dealt under section 66C of the IT Act. Then there is violation of privacy under section 66E. All your chats, all your messages, all your ideologies, whatever you talk to your friends, whatever you send across, it's encrypted, right? On WhatsApp and Facebook, it's encrypted. That information is to be kept to you. But if someone steals that data, or someone gets access to that data and then posts screenshots of whatever text you have sent across, that is a violation of privacy. Then let's go to obscenity. Obscenity is dealt under section 67, section 67A, and section 67B of the IT Act, where a particular individual posts in electronic form, obviously over the internet, posts obscene things or material containing sexually explicit content, or material content containing children in the sexually explicit act. These are some of the crimes that fall under obscenity. And obviously, we cannot miss out cyber terrorism, which is also dealt under cyber law. Cyber terrorism is very prevalent. Cyber terrorism is basically, you must have heard about the hacking of the pipelines in the United States, and all the you must have also heard about the cyber terrorist groups which are hiding behind the term hacktivists, and they're stealing a lot of data, and they're uh, publishing data online. It's a form of doxing, which means taking your personal data, where you live, where your address, your names, your telephone number, and then posting it all across the internet so that people can call and harass you. That will also fall under cyber terrorism. There are acts such as email spoofing as well. Email spoofing is really a very vague term, where someone pretends to be someone else and emails you. It's not exactly phishing and it's not exactly identity theft, but where email is originating from a different source and it is sent from a different source to you. And this generally leads to monetary damage. Now, coming to the Indian Penal Code, which also deals with cybercrime. The Indian Penal Code deals with cybercrime in this under Section 503, which talks about sending threatening messages over mails. Section 499 talks about sending defamatory messages by emails. Section 463 deals with forgery of electronic records. Any electronic records that nowadays most of the things that are in fact electronic records. A simple college application is an electronic record. So if someone forges that, or someone sends over a certificate, or maybe your personal data or a medical report, maybe those are all electronic records, and forgery of it is a crime. Similarly, defamatory or threatening messages is also a crime, where you threaten someone to you know hurt them in any sort of way, or you spread across lies about someone, that all fall under defamatory messages as well. Section 420 deals with of the Indian Penal Code deals with bogus websites and cyber frauds. Like, all of you are using WhatsApp, so you must have had the pleasure of getting messages from fake accounts that basically tell you that you have won a particular lottery, or that you have basically won a particular competition, which makes you eligible to win a lot of money. Similarly, there are bogus websites that takes your data or steals your data basically when you go or click on them. Mostly they are all mostly they are all disguised as dating websites or gaming website, in fact. So people will go there and put on their data, their email addresses, and these all lead to multiple uh, accounts basically spamming your email. That's the least of your worries. Sometimes there are chances where, if your email is out there, people will not only send you information, they will start stealing data from you. And once they start stealing your private information, then they can do a lot of damage with that. As the worst case scenario, they can also steal your credit or debit card account, and then you will lose a lot of money. And Section 463 deals with email spoofing, which we just talked about, and Section 383 talks about webjacking. So webjacking is a form of hijacking. So you're operating a website. Maybe I'm on a particular website which I own, the domain that I own. Someone comes in and hijacks it totally, uses it in his control, and uses it for whatever purposes. Maybe post obscene things, maybe post defamatory or threatening message, maybe start spamming people, or at least maybe start scamming people. That's webjacking for you. Section 500 is email abuse, when someone sends you something uh, and abuses you over the email. That's email abuse, which is dealt under Section 500. Similarly, Section 292 deals with pornography spreading across the internet, which is illegal in the country by nowadays. Section 354D deals with cyber stalking. Cyber stalking basically deals with someone, you know, keeping a tab on you, basically. Someone who is aware of your information, someone who's uh, stalking you, basically. The word stalking means someone is following you following your activities, and invading your privacy, basically. And when someone does it over the internet, it's called cyber stalking. Then we have other crimes like internet time thief. Uh, People steal internet. There is salami attack. So salami attack comes from the concept of salami slicing, which developed in international law. If you people are aware of it. So when a country starts taking over a different country by any form of annexation, or as, what they do is they start taking over a territory slowly, slowly, and slowly. So that is called salami slicing. They take over a particular island. It started with France, and then now that's the official term of the international law. And that is something on the internet we call salami attack. So in salami attack, what happens is people will steal your money slowly. So you don't lose 10,000 in a day. You lose like 500 every month, which is not very noticeable. And sooner or later, you'll realize a lot of money has been taken from you. Now that is scary, and that is salami attack, and it's pretty smart as well. because unless you are keeping tabs on all your finances that you're spending on the internet, the someone stealing, like, maybe let's say 300 to 500 rupees per month is not going to be noticeable for you. Now another crime would be other crimes would be email bombing. There is virus attacks as well, and there are other offenses under Indian Penal Code. And but without, the IPC and the IT law, our system would crash. Basically, our cyber law system would crash, and these two acts are basically the two pillars of Indian cyber law. Now that we have talked enough about India, I think we should definitely take a peek across the world. We also have the internet. We can go and check out what's happening in the world. So, first thing first, you guys would want to ask me, we are trying to protect the children. So, is there any particular act or is there any particular rule which deals with, children's online privacy? Because I've told you a bunch of crimes that can happen to you as well as your child. How do you protect a child from, say something as simple as a salami attack, or something as, someone stealing the child's data? Now it's very unlikely that the child would have, access to financial funds of the family, but it is very easy for a child to give out information regarding the house itself, or, something very personal. Hence it's critical that a child's online privacy is protected. Now the best case example would be an act which came out in 1998, and that act is the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, or the COPPA. This is a federal act. That means it belongs to the United States of America. Now, this act, as I said, came out in 1998, and it's called COPPA for short. So, COPPA required the Federal Trade Commission, or the FTC, which basically deals with, a lot of consumer-related issues as well. And you can make an argument that cyber ethics does fall under consumer protection. So, the FTC, or the Federal Trade Commission, uh, basically issues and enforce regulations concerning the children's online privacy. Now, the Commission's original COPA rule became effective in around 2000, and the Commission published more amendments, and it keeps amending every few years. So the last one was around, if I'm not wrong, I think it was around 2013. Now, what do you say? How does this COPA thing act? How does this COPA thing helps save the child's privacy protection? Now, the primary goal of COPA is to place the parents in control of what information is collected from their young children online. Okay, so you, as the parents, if you are in the United States, you would get access, or you would get the control over what a child is putting on the internet, whether the child is putting only his name, or whether the child is putting out his home address, his religion, his ethnicity, everything else, which is dangerous. Your information, or like, imagine your telephone or your home address is on some stranger website, and anyone can send you anything, right? So that is pretty problematic for you. Now the rule was designed to protect children under the age 13 while accounting the dynamic nature of the internet. And this was back in 1998, when internet was not what it is right now. People didn't have access to internet uh, that much, right? It was pretty slow. It was laggy. Remember, if someone is from the 90s, was born in the 90s, you remember how difficult it was to get the internet connections going. Then we had the dial-up modems to deal with. But now it's smartphones. It's 5G. It's like 5G is something that we have to deal with now. But Copa is something which evolves with the technology. Copa is something that has been amended a lot. So this rule is basically now, applies to mobile apps, the IoT devices, and it also applies to something, as simple as smart toys. Any smart toy which a child is the target audience for. If a child is under the age of 13 is buying such smart toy, or any device, if the child is using, you know any such device that collects or uses or discloses personal information from children, or on whose behalf such information is collected or maintained, such as when personal information is collected by an ad network, for example. So these are all covered under the COPA, right? uh, like, they would just say, "Oh, we are just conducting an advertisement. Please tell us where you live, the particular area you live," and that is something you might not be comfortable with. For example, there is a gaming website, right? Uh, so this gaming website wants the children to a child below the age of 12 to basically post the his home address. Like, let's just say he's from the state of Philadelphia, right? So he'll write down Philadelphia, and in the website itself, he will start writing down the address where he actually is from, and it's in the name of advertisement. So the defense would be, we just want to show that everyone in this country is playing. One is from Arizona, one is from Philadelphia. That's what the big companies would say. But you as you as the parent, you understand the bigger risk of posting your information online, and this is where the COPA strikes. Due to the COPA, if your rules are violated, you can always take your case to the FTC or the Federal Trade Commission, and then they will be dealing with this issue. Now, this rule also applies to operators of general audience websites or online services with actual knowledge that they're collecting, using, or disclosing personal information from children under the age of 13, and to websites or online services that have actual knowledge and they're collecting personal information directly from user of another website or online services which are directed towards children. So if there is any website, if there is any services, online services, which take data from another website which is collecting data from children, they are also undercover under COPA. COPA is pretty tight. There is no leeway around COPA. It's very difficult to go across COPA as well. Now, the federal student privacy law that regulate privacy and protect sensitive data from schools uh, is called the FORPA, or the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act. Now, you would say, well, there is COPA. Why do we need FORPA? So, the basic logic behind the fact that COPA deals with specifically companies, right? Companies stealing your data from your child. It doesn't apply to schools. It doesn't apply to colleges. It doesn't apply to universities. It doesn't apply to coaching centers. Although I doubt America has coaching centers, but FORPA is the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act. So FORPA deals specifically with a school or a university which may take a particular information that belongs to a child and then disclose it all across the internet. This could lead, this could range from something as simple as this boy moved from Arizona to, let's say, Los Angeles. That's giving prior data. That's giving that's giving out excuse me, that's giving out this child's travel history. Or it could be as simple as something that this person's achievement are these, and that might include something that the parents might not want to disclose. And unlike COPA, FORPA applies to children below the age of 18 and beyond as well. So it covers pretty much all students whatsoever. So generally, when you're dealing with FORPA and COPA, it's the educators and the administrators and the parents are acquainted with such laws. So what does COPA mean for the school districts then? I just said that it regulates companies, right? So there are certain instances where the school may act as the parents as agents in the consent process, right? So according to the data laws, mostly because of the new European Union general data protection regulations, what happened is that all the website across the world have to follow the EU guidelines, because it's 27 countries, right? Supposedly there is an Indian website which deals with European Union clients. So if they don't follow those rules, they are losing contact with 27 countries, which is a lot. So similarly, you can see a lot of the laws which deal with data protection or which deals with cyber laws are basically based on these. So you can see that similarly, COPA also somehow touches over that. But the case we are dealing with here, like the example I'm giving you, is the fact that what happens when the school is an agent in the consent process. So according to the EU GDPR regulations, every website needs to get consent from you. So now you must have also, a lot of you probably have seen this, right? When you log into a data, it says below, do you agree to the terms? Can we keep your cookies? Or Are you agreeing to share your data with us? So these are all the permissions they're asking for. These are the consent we're asking for, and sometimes the school does that on the behalf of the child. So their Copa laws, the Copa would apply. Even though it's a school that we're dealing with, Copa will step in. And it is critical in ensuring the student information is safe and it is protected from the internet. Obviously, the school can grant consent on the behalf of the parents when the operator of a website, online services, or whatever you're dealing with, it's in educational context or for the benefit of the school system. There are certain, like this one only, there are certain times when the school itself can bypass, the parents' consent. They don't need to have consent of the parents, but generally the parents will have to step in. So as you can see, America is very aware of the importance of cyber ethics and how parents are very critical while dealing with the, the cyber crimes which might affect children. The schools ability to grant consent, the school's ability to bypass this parents' consent is very limited, and these are only dealt under specific circumstances. Regardless, they do have the power, and parents can also obviously use for Parker to come back and help out, you and guide, or keep a check on the school just in case they start taking any information that the parents would not want to be disclosed. And these are some of the data protection related laws which are dealt under the United States and which specifically deal with this whole idea of protecting a child's right. These are basically designed to protect the personal privacy, and they affect to papers and education records, directory information, which are basic, and de-identified data. So directory information are basically all universities have specific directories about the students, academic record, transfer history, transport history, and all that. So even even health records as well. And these things are not to be disclosed to the public because that might cause problems for the student later on. So these are some of the things that the FORPA and the COPA are covering. Now, coming back to you know the cyber ethics part of this discussion, we talked about what exactly cyber ethics means and why our children need to be the risks that our children are facing online, and why the children need cyber ethics, why we need to understand cyber ethics, and take an idea of what and visualize what can happen if we do not maintain or regulate the basic ethical conduct that is to be followed on the internet. So basically, what we can do, we don't have FORPA here, we don't have COPA here. So what can we do? You might ask. What should we do? How should we protect the children? What we can do is it's simple. We can just implement the best practices. We can implement recommendation. We can take an idea and we can run with it. It doesn't necessarily have to be uh, regulated or implemented by the law. These are very simple exercises that you can do. So again, the first thing first that we need to do is ensure that a child understands the ramifications, a child understands the consequences of mishandling data on the internet. Posting your data online is a serious risk that a child needs to be aware of. A child needs to understand what it can lead to. A child needs to, I wouldn't say afraid, but at least be aware of the things that might follow if a child is not careful. And for that, have uh, we need to have a supervisory role in this. We need to administer this. We need to govern. We need to regulate our children's behavior in when they are logging in online. And we have to be careful because children are secretive. Children don't like sharing things with parents. We didn't do that back in our day, and we can expect a lot of kids not doing that now. Hence, us as parents, us as elders, we need to earn their trust. We need to understand that they were not going to share, but if we do not step in, they might be in big trouble. And there is a lot of cases you can find online, a lot of cases where someone gets scammed, or uh, someone is gets cyberbullied, or at the very least, it's a phishing attack. There was a very recent case of a person committing suicide because the person was playing online poker without understanding the consequences of losing that kind of money. The person lost nearly 90 lakh rupees from his father's account. Now, it's a child around like 14, 15 years old. And the sad part is this could have been prevented if there was a little due diligence, if there was a little education that could have been imparted to both the child and the parents. Because the scammers will not let you go just because you're a child, right? The scammers do not care. The people who want your money have prepared full proof to ensure that they can steal your money, and you being a child or you being an ethical person doesn't deal doesn't help you out. So what you have to do is you have to understand how to mitigate the risks, how to reduce them, and by that you need to follow up the rules regarding cyber ethics, which can obviously help you out in reducing the risk and keeping your child safe from a lot of things that a child might not be ready to handle. Because even if you recover from such attacks, there are consequences. A child might not feel secure anymore, and this can lead to further complications, which we do not wish to deal with. And this is not just it's not just specific laws related to India like IPC or the IT Act, or it's not something which deals specifically with internet and the children like the Copa and the FORPA. Uh, Cybercrime law is very connected to the international human rights as well. There are substantive provisions of certain cybercrime laws which are related to internet related content, which deals with specifically disrespecting of authority or insults, defamation, or disrespecting the head of the state, obscenity, or pornographic material. This may unduly restrict the exercise of certain human rights, which are every human's basic fundamental right. Now, the procedural provisions for cybercrime laws enabling the use of tools and tactics during cybercrime investigation, these facilitate the interception of communications as well. And these are also, they unjustifiably restrict the exercise of human rights, which includes a very basic human right, which is called privacy. So clearly, we need to ensure that cybercrime control and human rights have to be balanced out. And for that, cyber ethics plays a critical part. So we have a lot of challenges. We have a lot of challenges when it comes to not only our own backyard. We are not dealing with just India. There is a lot of challenges that have to be dealt on the international forums as well. There's a lot of challenges that cyberspace has to be dealt with. But we obviously have certain ideas as well. So what we can do is simply follow up certain basic guidelines. We can follow up certain rules, and that should be enough to help out. So I found like this very interesting PDF that I would like to share. It will take me 2 minutes to share. So Rupesh, if you can help me out here a little, if I have sharing rights, I can just simply share it with you.
Yeah, you can see in the bottom near your mic share plus button, right?
Yeah, I can see it.
Just click
Let
on
me
that.
just.
It's same like Google Meet. Select the whole screen and you can share it.
Yeah.
So you won't be able to see the screen at that time.
Okay.
Have you enabled sharing?
Yeah. Can you see the screen, Rupesh? Can you please confirm?
Yes, it is coming. Shall I present it to the screen?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, please carry on.
Yeah, great.
If is it
So,
possible to make it full screen, read mode or something, so that only the PDF comes?
I think I can zoom out if it helps.
No, no. Just below, beside that percentage thing, you have
Yeah.
this file up. No, no. Just more right, more right. Yeah,
Yeah,
click
that's
on
read
that.
mode, right?
Just click on the read mode in that.
Great. Yeah.
Perfect.
So this is from the Information Security Education and Awareness, which is a Department of Information Technology, Ministry of Communications and IT, Government of India. So these are some of the internet ethics that you need to learn, some cyber ethics you need to learn. It's very relevant for both parents and teachers. So let's just go through that very quickly so that we can wrap up. First thing is first acceptance. We need to understand that the World Wide Web is a place where which values the broadest sense and in determining content. So we need to accept. We need to be accepting. We need to accept the universal culture, and we need to be respectful of it. We need to be sensitive to the local and national cultures, because there is no barrier, there is no restrictions there. Anyone can post anything which relate to this. We also need to be careful while using email and chatting. It is to be used for communication. It is to be used for to be families and friends. It is not to be used to harass strangers. It's not to be used to forward emails to strangers. It's definitely not supposed to be used for pretending to be someone else, because identity theft is not a joke. It's not supposed to use Internet is not supposed to be used for use of bad language. And definitely internet is supposed to use to make sure that your personal information stays hidden. So you need to teach your children that personal details like home address, phone numbers, interest, passwords should not be provided. Ensure that while downloading, it's a legal download and it's not something illegal. And finally, we need to supervise. We need to ensure that children are being supervised, they're not getting inappropriate websites. And finally, we need to encourage them to use the internet in a very just and proper manner. So this is something you can find on the internet. So
Yeah, anyways, just send me that PDF, Ashit. I'll attach a link to that here.
yeah, definitely. So guys, that's it. I think I covered pretty much everything I could. And anything you would want me to add, Rupesh, please say so.
No, I think it's perfect. You have covered it's a 360 degrees overview of cyber ethics for parents. And I see the questions, I think all of the questions are almost answered. So, thank you so much, Ashriji, for taking your valuable time and spreading your knowledge with our participants. Thank you so much. See you
Thank
again
you.
in some other session. Thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you. Bye.